Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. How are you all today? Those who are standing, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay, over here don't have to. On screen, I can't tell whether you are standing or sitting. Those who are standing, raise your hand. So long time since you all got asked to stand in class, right? Okay, first things first. I do not benefit from making you all stand, okay? And I don't take pleasure. Okay, I don't know whether I take pleasure, but it doesn't serve me any purpose, really. But I hope you all feel something with standing. Yeah, you all feel something? Do you feel happy to stand? Maybe some of you a bit strange, happy to be standing. Yeah. Why do I ask you all to stand? Yeah, because last week I told you all to submit your homework, right? Or to do your homework. Yeah. If you only submitted today, then unless you submit 2 pages, 3 pages of homework, so then you tell me, oh, I started doing on Monday and I write a long thesis, that's why it took so long. Any of you are submitting a 3-page thesis, 10,000 words? No, Yeah. Second thing, don't worry, Sifu is not angry with you. You must always remember, okay? Whatever Sifu do, don't come and tell me, sorry Sifu, don't be angry. Whether I'm angry or not, that's irrelevant, okay? The important thing is for you to remember that the homework is for your own benefit. Yeah. Some students, wait, hang on. All of you look at me, eye contact. That gentleman behind, don't look at your phone, look at me. I want you all to pay attention. I repeat again. Those of you who only submitted your homework today, stand up. Because I remember you said you haven't submitted, you did, but haven't taken a photo. Yeah. So, and one of you mentioned that you don't know how to do the homework. Last week, did I tell you all, did I ask you all again and again whether you understand the homework? The lady behind, don't look around, look at me. Yeah. Sifu can joke with you all. When I joke with you all, it is to help you all feel relaxed so that you can learn. But we are not having a party here, okay? I don't want to waste time with people. And I hope you don't waste your time also. Your life is very precious. 2 hours every week, 10 weeks, total 20 hours. And sometimes I exceed. Yeah, that's one complete human life day. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. The homework is meant to help you understand the teachings. Okay? The thing I need you all to do is at least try. Yeah? And if you have questions, you must ask. You must ask. Okay? If you don't ask, I wouldn't know that you have a question. Okay? Then I can't explain. Yeah? This is a class where you can ask questions. Don't worry if you think that your question, please check. There are 2 lights here. One on the left, TOW. One on the right, LOW. LOW means low. Low means battery is running out. Okay, so what is the exercise? Listen carefully. Okay, can you hear me? Listen. The exercise is to find an object, and it must be an object. Okay, there are three categories. We are only touching on the first category. The first category is a physical object, and then analyze it according to four areas: 名体受用, its name, its body, its experience when you use it, and its function. Okay, most of you who have submitted through Telegram, I have briefly read through, more or less that. Okay, but actually you all covered only the first part of the exercise, which is to list it out. Yeah, there's a second part to it, which is to do an analysis of its name, its body, experience, and function. Yeah, supposed to do an analysis. Yeah, the difference between listing out and doing an analysis is, for example, this is a mark. If you just list out this is a mark, then you get 1 point. But the whole set is 25 points. You only get 1 point. You fail. Yeah, supposed to do an analysis. For example, the name, is it due to conditions that is called a mark? Of course, yes. Then what are the conditions? The English language, yeah, and then the conditions that everybody agree that this is a mark and so on, yeah. Then it's called a mark. Otherwise, it's not called a mark, yeah. In other languages, it's called other things. So they're supposed to do the analysis. Now, can understand? Don't nod your head, Don't just nod your head, Next week, I don't see homework. I ask you to stand again, What's your name again? Huh? Sorry? Tuya. Tuya. Tuya, can understand? I saw a telegram message from you. Hello. Just now. Is it from you? Yeah. Okay. You okay? Can understand? Not just the name, the name, body, experience, and last one is function. Very good. Okay, everybody got it? All the ones standing, look at me. Understand? All understand, Must not have negative thoughts towards the teacher. So this teacher good, ask you to stand there, ask you not to have negative. Yeah, because when I ask you to stand, I don't have negative intent. If you, because Sifu ask you to stand there, you have negative, very bad karma. Okay, sit down. Okay, the online participants, look at me. Yeah, how come the screen keep on switching? Hey, something wrong, What's going on? Sorry, online participants, you have to stand for a while more because my computer going crazy. Okay, those who are, I think I put it here, then you can see me clearly. Those who are standing, look at me, eye contact. Wait, I must adjust myself because I have long-sightedness now. Okay, like that is clear. Look at me. Is it clear? When we have homework, when must you submit? Not on the day of the next lesson, okay? Can or not? Can? Say yes. Okay, understand? Anybody have questions about the exercise? Don't like that lah. Just ask you to stand all so sad already. Sit down, sit down. Okay, sit down. So, those of you who have done the exercises and submitted, I hope it helps you to, for those who are doing it for the first time, I hope it helps you to understand. For those who have done it before, I hope you don't start to find it mechanical. Yeah, don't. Oh, chala, this machine going a bit crazy. Keep on, hang on. Is there something below? Yeah. Okay, those who are online, I will probably not be able to look at you or ask you all much today because the external monitor is somehow not really working. Okay, so later if you all have questions, post to the chat, then the volunteers will let me know. Okay, Ken? So for those who have done it before, don't think, oh, but I've attended 3 times already. This is same exercise. Yes, same exercise. But have we internalized it? So don't feel like, oh yeah, I've done it already. Every year is the same exercise. You must know, Sifu have been conducting this class for 15 years. Every year, 2 or 3 times. Still the same exercise, still the same teaching. Yeah. If you have done it before, the challenge is to look at it with fresh eyes. Yeah. And find something that you have not examined before. If you think you have, unless you has any of you examined everything in your world, I'm sure there's something else you haven't examined before, right? So try the exercise. Yeah. So I'm going to just share the screen and then we continue with the class. But before we jump in, do you all have any questions about the exercise? Now all of you scared already, huh? Scared or not? Not scared. Nothing to be scared lah. At most ask you to stand what? Correct or not? Sifu won't kill you also what? Right? Sifu won't go over and slap you. But hard to say. When Sifu stand up there, you know, you may have to be careful. Then tonight I will appear in the newspaper. Monk charged in court under civil case for slapping students in class. Temper violence. First time in Singapore history. Okay, so last week we started on the verse 观自在菩萨行深般若波罗蜜多时，照见五蕴皆空，度一切苦厄。Yeah, the reply, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, when practicing the perfection of wisdom in a very deep, profound way, or we can say when Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva do the practice very deeply, the profound perfection of wisdom, and observe, illuminate and observe the 5 aggregates, he see that they are all empty in nature. And when he see that they are all empty in nature, he put an end to all suffering. Yeah. So we just covered in brief last week, and then towards the end, we went into the exercise or the example of laksa. Yeah. So far so good. Before I continue, is there anyone who somehow missed last week's lesson? Anyone who missed last week's lesson? You missed, huh? Did you get a recording? Did you have to ask the volunteers, huh? How about the online participants? Did you all manage to get how many of you are attending this the first time? No, all attended before. Yvonne, Joe, and Everly, please turn on your webcam. Oh.
Yeah, Shifu, Evelyn here. I actually missed last week's exercise. It would be great if we can get a playback. Thank you.
How come you missed the lesson?
Yeah, I was volunteering at other event. Sorry.
Volunteering at other event?
Yeah.
Don't volunteer, also volunteer already, huh?
Done that, thanks.
Sifu has only one question to ask all of you, okay? Not just Evelyn. Some students, a long time ago, there was one student who asked me, Sifu, can I miss the last 2 lessons? Yeah, it's some other class. Then I ask, why? What happened? Say, oh, because another class, series of class is starting. I don't want to miss any class. So, so I look at the student, then you can miss my class, cannot miss the class. But Evelyn, don't take it personally. Later next week, Evelyn, don't turn up.
No worry, no worry. Yeah. Because I was just wondering, it will be great for us, right, who missed the lessons to listen to the playback. And you did mention, so I thought it would be fine, for us to get a copy of that.
So I must highlight to you, okay? Take the class seriously. We happen to do recording. It is like if you go for a tour, you wouldn't say, can I skip this? I fly there, tour halfway, then I fly back. Yeah, you wouldn't do that, right? Yeah. Take the class seriously, okay? Yeah. Unless life and death matter lah. But as I said, don't volunteer. Also volunteer already. Yeah. But if your die have to excuse yourself, Shifu can't do anything to you. Also, as I said, yeah. But the recording is not a guarantee. Okay. Yeah. The recording is not a guarantee. Okay, we continue the class. So the last week we went through the teaching on emptiness. So when something happened, we examine whether it happened due to conditions or not. Yeah. What are the conditions required before it happened? Yeah. So last week we went through a certain angle to look at it. So this week I want to share with you another angle. Yeah. It's a series of questions. The first question to ask is, does that object exist all the time? Okay, that's the first question. In other words, was there a point in time where it doesn't exist? So if it doesn't exist, then how did it come into existence? Yeah, how did it come into existence? How did it happen? So then you can ask yourself how it happened. Then you can list down, okay, but for it to happen, what are the conditions required? I can write it down. Okay, very simple. You don't have to write down the conditions now, but it's just I'm teaching you the angle to do the analysis. Okay, so then after you list down the conditions, yeah, I notice some of you don't take down notes one, those behind, you don't need to take down notes one. Because if you don't take down notes, I don't know how good is your memory. Later when you have to do exercise, you blank out, Yeah. So after you write down the conditions, then you ask yourself, are the conditions persistent? Yeah. Will the conditions last forever? And at some point, when the conditions change or cease to exist, will that thing still continue to exist, or will it then disappear? Yeah, will it cease to exist, or will it then will it continue to exist, or will it cease to exist and disappear? So if it ceases to exist, then it means that it cannot exist by itself. The fact that it exists only when conditions are around, we say this is dependent arising existence. And the fact that when conditions cease to be present, then that thing stops existing. So it doesn't have any inherent existence by itself. Yeah, so it's empty in nature. Empty in nature. So this is a series of questions. Formally, there are actually 3 stages. We have only covered the first 2. The first one is dependent arising existence, and then empty in nature. Okay? So when something exists, for example, this clock. Okay, this clock. When there's a clock, we can say that there are all the parts and all the conditions required for it to exist. Yeah. So easy to understand. This is dependent arising existence. But now if we were to think about all the different constituent parts, okay, we disassemble it, and then we scatter it around. When we take it out and scatter it around, is there still a clock? Is there still a clock? No more clock. So without conditions, the clock cannot exist. So we say the clock is empty in nature. Yeah. So this is another approach to learn these two. And if you look at it this way, when there's clock, easy to understand dependent arising existence. When there's no clock, easy to understand that the clock is empty in nature. But now we combine the two and say, even when there's clock, the clock is empty in nature. And even when there's no clock, clock is dependent arising. Dependent arising and emptiness happen at the same time. It's not a separate thing. Yeah, but when we learn it in sequence. Our tendency is, when we see something present, we don't think it is empty in nature. Yeah. For us to consider that this is dependent arising, maybe not so easy also. And this clock is still at 2 o'clock. How come? And last week, did I not demonstrate to you all how to put in the battery? I demonstrated, right? Today is the day. It's long. Never mind, I accept. You can only teach so many times. So, 缘起有自性空, dependent arising, empty in nature. Whether there's a clock or not, this principle is there. Can you understand? So far, so good? So, the clockness, okay, this is a bit tricky. There's no such a word as clockness. Yeah. Nature of a clock cannot be found. Clockness is basically nature of the clock. Yeah. Nature of a clock actually cannot be found. But yet, when you put everything together, there's a clock. Yeah. So when you put together, then we have a clock. But even when you have a clock, it's still empty in nature. So today we shall then apply this principle to something else. To the 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates. Hang on. How? Okay. Oh, okay, thank you. Not bad, not bad. I look around, you know what I'm looking for. First time, Tan Sai Ling. Who is Tan Sai Ling? How come she say first time? Who is Tan Sai Ling? Tan Sai Ling, raise your hand.
Yes.
Oh, this is the first time you're attending a class.
Yes.
How come it's the first time?
First time attended the Sutra class.
Oh.
But this is the third lesson.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
I was like, the lesson first time. Okay. So as you recall, last week we went through the text, and then there was the part about the 5 aggregates. So Wu Yin, the 5 aggregates. So what are the 5 aggregates? Repeat after me. Forms, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. 色、受、想、行、识。So what is this? The first one is something that we should be familiar with. It is physicality, okay? Forms. Do you have physical form? Do you all have physical form? Of course we have, huh? So in Buddhism, what constitutes physical form? We can categorize it as internal and external. So we have what we call 根身器界. Gosh. So in English, it is the sense body, sense-based body, or faculty body. And then the vessel realm. Yeah. So what is this? We can maybe even draw a line across. And the first part here, 根身 is the physical body that we are born with. The 根 is referring to the senses, yeah, eye, ears, nose, tongue, and the body, yeah, the physical senses, yeah. You all have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body, the whole physical body. Okay, so that's the 根身, the internal physicality. Yeah, everybody got it? Can understand? Yeah. Then external physical things, the largest would be 气界, 气字界. So this 气界 is referring to what? The external physical world that acts like a vessel. Yeah. A vessel is like, let's say a mug is a vessel, yeah, something to contain another thing. Yeah. A container, in other words. So in the teachings, it describes the realm that we are in like a container. Yeah. Why? Because the physical realm can contain sentient beings. Yeah. So that includes the ground, the earth. Yeah. It includes all the external physical things also. All right. So rightly speaking, when we talk about the physical form, it includes both internal, our body, and so on, plus external. In the in the various sutta, such as the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha in the first foundation talk about mindfulness of the body, in which then the Buddha relates internal physicality with external physicality. Yeah, but whether it's internal or external, there are commonalities and differences. So there are things that's common, and then there are differences. The difference is simple. Yeah. So for example, our physical body is different from things outside, right? Is your body the same as this mark? Is it the same? Not the same. Anybody think that it's the same? Anybody? If you think that it's the same, you need counseling, okay? Yeah, I will see you after this, okay? Let's take a look at our online club students. Anybody? Any of you think that you are the same as the mark? Huh? Have or not? After Shifu asks you to stand, something broken already. Huh? And I noticed one of the students disappeared. Yeah, Everly disappeared already.
I'm still here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Evelyn is still here. Yeah. So differences, there are many. Yeah. Even among human beings, there are differences, right? Yeah. All of us have similarities and differences. All of us have, most of us have 2 eyes. Maybe some have 3. Any of you have 3 eyes? And then 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 ears. Yeah. But are there commonalities beyond that? So the commonalities is that all the physicality comprises 4 great elements. Yeah, 4 great elements. They are earth, water, fire, wind. 地水火风. Oops. Four great elements, known as 四大. 地, 水, 火, 风. So earth, water, fire, wind. And as far as these 4 great elements is concerned, all physicality has a combination of them. And when we say earth, water, fire, wind, we are not specifically referring to the physical earth. We are not referring to the physical earth. We are referring to traits, traits of this. All right? So the traits are, the first one, earth element. It has the quality of hardness and softness. Hardness and softness. Okay. The second, the water element has the quality of, you can say, viscosity, yeah, or smoothness and roughness. Viscosity is whether it is sticky or not sticky. Yeah. And related to that is whether it's smooth or rough. The third element is fire element. The fire element has the quality of heat and cold, yeah, or hot and cold. So it is a degree of heat, more heat or less heat. Yeah. a related quality to this element is growth and decay. The fourth element, wind element, has the quality of movement or non-movement. Yeah, a related quality to it is stability and instability. So if you have more movement, then less stability. No movement, more stability. So if you consider these four qualities, four sets of qualities or elements, whether you're considering this physical body or the table and chairs that you are using, even your spectacles, your clothes, they all have different levels of these four qualities, combination of these four. So if you were to just consider this body in terms of these four elements, you can consider the hardness of your bone, yeah, or the skeleton when you press in. But as you press your body, you can feel the skin, the fats, the flesh, the muscle groups, and so on. So the external layer, which is the head, hair, body, nail, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone, bone marrow. So flesh, sinew, bone, flesh, sinew, up to flesh, sinew, fat layer, and so on, those are soft. Yeah. But if you press further, then you reach the bone. The bone has hardness. Yeah. The external layer also have hardness, but the hardness is lower in amount. Yeah. So it is not that the soft part has no hardness. It's just that its hardness is low. Okay. And then the bone has hardness, has more hardness. Okay. Similarly, if you consider, let's say, this mouse, the mouse also has hardness. So in terms of hardness, internal hardness, external hardness, they are equal. Can you understand? At this point, can you understand? Yeah. Then the Buddha considered all the way out to the mountain, the great earth. Yeah. That massive hardness, yeah, that massive earth element, as massive as it is, that earth element can be eroded. Then much more this internal earth element. And if the mountain, the great earth can one day be eroded, then how permanent is this body? How permanent is this body? Then you go through the water element, then the Buddha in the Sutra described just as the water element internally, yeah, what aspects of the body has prominent water element? Our perspire, yeah. When you are sad, you cry, yeah. Like when Sutra asks you to stand, then maybe you cry, you cry. Then you cry until you are very sad, then you have snot coming out of your nose. Yeah. True or not? No lah, not true. Yeah, Sifu, we are not so emotionally invested in this class. Yeah. Then maybe your house is very hot, then there's your aircon is broken, so you perspire. Yeah, your perspire has prominent water element. But it doesn't mean that the rest of the body doesn't have water element. But it's easier to notice the water element in those which is fluid in nature, yeah, or in feature. Yeah. Of course, then we all know that there's blood coursing around the body, right? Yeah. And then if you feel your mouth, there's the saliva. Disgusting monk, huh? Show you some saliva. Now, saliva. Okay, where's the saliva? Can you see the saliva? Can see? So internal water element that the Buddha compared with external water element, such as the 4 great oceans. And similarly, while the external water element is so massive and great, it can one day dry up. So similarly, the internal body water element is impermanent. Yeah. Then the fire element, likewise, as far as we are alive, there is the heat element where there's bodily temperature. But that temperature can also vary. When we go to sleep, our temperature drop. Yeah. When we go for a run, it increases. We go to aircon room, it may drop a bit, right? So similarly, external heat element. And one day, can this heat element in us sustain for 10 years? Maybe 10 years can. Yeah, maybe. As long as you don't die. Yeah. How about 50 years? Maybe, you're going to die so soon. Huh? You are not so old, right? How about 100 years? How many of you will still be around in 100 years' time? All gone already. Huh? There was one time I was at Marina South before they built all these things. Yeah, I was with a friend, and then we sat down along there's this brick water park last time. Then I sat down there with her. Then I look out. Then suddenly I thought, and I was thinking about what happened that day. And there was some conflict at work or something. Then suddenly I reflect, and I thought, in 100 years' time, none of this will matter. Then suddenly I realized, oh yeah, I'm out with this girl. She looked at me like, but it's true, isn't it? Yeah. Whether something you like, something you don't like, 100 years later, all gone. Huh? Then maybe some of you say, no, Shifu, I take a lock, go to that special bridge, I think in France or whatever country, I lock down there. 100 years from now, you'll still be there. Yeah, but you will not be there. So, last is wind element. The prominent wind element internally is our breath. Yeah. But in the teachings, the wind element is a feature of physicality, not just the breath. The fact that we can move, is because of the wind element. The fact that the bone can support our body and the muscles can give us strength is also a feature of wind element. Another way to look at it is these 4 elements describe the physical aspects of the body. Okay? So internal physicality, likewise external physicality. Yeah. When the air is still, is quiet, no movement. But then when there's changes, then wind blows. Yeah. So when the wind blows, then there's movement. When there's no wind blowing, is that the wind element? There is wind element also. Yeah. So wind element doesn't mean that only when it's moving, then there's wind element. The fact that you can stay still is also due to wind element. Okay? So no matter how great the wind blows, at some point it also ceases. So likewise, the internal wind element. There's movement, there's lesser movement. So, so this is the 4 great elements. And in many Chinese movies last time, the Chinese monk would come out and then, 阿弥陀佛，平生6根清净，四大皆空。They always say this, that the 6 sense base is totally purified, and we see that the 4 elements are all empty in nature. Yeah. Almost every Chinese movie that has a monk, every time it's Shaolin monk. It's as though the whole China only one temple. That's why it's a movie, it's fictional. And the monk must always say this, yeah? Always come out. Nobody asks you what? No, I must say. 六根清净四大天宫. It's as though, yeah, afraid people don't know. Hey, maybe you don't know. Hey, it's yeah. For Chinese, Albert, maybe you never heard before. Yeah, Albert, maybe give you an exercise. Go and watch the Shaolin. Yeah. But actually, as much as it's very common in Asia, you watch a lot of Chinese movie in the 80s and 90s, every other movie there. But most people don't understand the depth of that statement. So far so good. Can everybody accept? Can understand? Now this teaching says the four elements are empty in nature as well. Yeah. Empty in nature. Physicality is empty in nature. When we went through the laksa, we look at one aspect of it. That laksa itself is empty in nature. It requires all the ingredients to come together. How about the ingredients? You can break the ingredients down to the four elements. The four elements are empty in nature also. Everybody agree? Agree or not? How come you all don't disagree? You all disagree, then I can explain now. You all agree, then nothing to explain. What do you disagree? Oh.
The ingredient is still there.
Wait. Huh?
All these are like ingredients, so we can actually put them all in one, then yeah, it is not actually. But like stone,
stone and room.
Look at nature, it's like wood is a wood, stone is a stone. It's stone by itself.
So what's your name again?
Karen.
Karen. So Karen asked, oh, is there two Karen? I heard a Karen from here also. Or is it because of the phone over there? Okay, I answer the question over here first, okay? So her Karen's question is, but how about things like the stone and the wood? Stone is stone, ma, right? Wood is wood, ma. So you think stone is not empty in nature? It's okay, you can think that it's not empty in nature. You think so? How about wood? What is wood? Wood is basically usually we refer wood, when we say wood, we refer to the trunk of a tree, right? Wood consists of, if I don't recall wrongly, a lot of it is carbon, right? There's cellulite inside and things like that. So let's look at the carbon part. This is an interesting question, The tree is planted in the ground, right? Correct? So where does the trunk come from? Where does it come from? Come from where? From the wood, from the ground?
No, from the ground, yeah, the root start to grow up.
I purposely trick her. I purposely highlight tree grow on the grow from the ground, right? Actually, the carbon, the physical part, mostly don't come from the ground. Mostly come from the air. Yeah. Photosynthesis? Yeah. So it absorbs carbon dioxide. Then with the sun, the photosynthesis trigger, right? Then plus water, then then expel oxygen. Then where's the carbon? Carbon goes into the physical part of the tree and plants. Yeah. So if you don't expose the tree or the small seeds to air, can you have a tree? So due to the conditions, if you have oxygen, you have the air, you have water, but no sun, can you have a tree? Also no tree. If you have no water, you have air, you have sun, can you have a tree? Also no tree. If you have no seed, you have water, you have ground, you have oxygen, you have air, you have sun, can you have a tree? Also no tree. So no conditions, no tree. No tree, no wood. So can we still say that wood is dependent? Can we still say that the wood is just wood? Cannot. Wood is dependent on conditions to exist. Stone is a bit tricky. Yeah. Because stone is actually from what I know, it's a complex thing, you know, because there are different kind of stones. Some stones consist mainly of crystals. Yeah. There are others that has other composition. But many times when we look at stone, it is like part of the physical earth or a mountain. So it may seem as though it has always been there. Things that we are used to seeing being around, we feel like it is always around. That doesn't need conditions. For most of us, we don't have the psychic vision to see into the past or look into the future, to see how it formed and how it changed. Fortunately for us, we don't need psychic power. Yeah. There are those who are into, let's say, geography or archaeology. Yeah. So they look at stone features and they can determine when this was formed, how it was formed. According to science, generally speaking, the physical surface is formed when Earth gradually cooled down. So if you go back far enough, the stones don't exist the way we see them today. And in future, they will also not exist. So in that way, they are also dependent on conditions to exist. Okay? How about the rest? 4 elements. Can you all accept that they are empty in nature? Or you don't know what I'm talking about? Yes. So what's your name? Huh? Ask. When we see the stone, you can see the stone. How to see that it's empty in nature? So can you see this mouse? Yeah. Okay. Let's imagine there's laksa inside. Imagine, no laksa, but imagine there's laksa inside. So when you look into and imagine this is a bowl, okay? A lot of imagination. If this is a bowl and inside is laksa, when you look inside, there's laksa, right? But last week, we analyzed and we find that the laksa is empty in nature. Also, it's okay. It's good that you bring it up. Better to tell me that you don't understand. So, before we try to understand why something is empty in nature, first of all, what does it mean when something is empty in nature? To understand that, we can look at the opposite. The opposite is that it is inherent in nature. You know what is inherent? Inherent means that it exists that way by itself. Yeah, like for example, we may let's say if you know know someone who is very lazy, very, very lazy, so lazy, super lazy. Then some people will say, that person inherently lazy. Yeah, laziness is inside the bone. Yeah, if you take the blood out, the blood don't want to come out. Even the blood is lazy, don't want to come out. Yeah, this person is so lazy, if he fall down and have a cut, he doesn't bleed. Why? The blood is lazy to flow out. Yeah. So, or you find you don't like a person, and because that person is very annoying, yeah, then we feel like that person it's just annoying, no? The annoyability is inside that person. Yeah. So when we describe something that way, that means we are thinking that person has that quality of annoyance inside him or her. And when we make such a statement, what it really means is, he is just like that. Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with others. Yeah. Number one, don't need conditions. Yeah. Regardless, and not just don't need conditions, regardless of conditions. No matter what, the person is like that. Let me repeat that. Number one, do not require conditions, the person is like that. Number one, can remember or not? Want to write down? You want to write down? Write down. You know, go to some museum that no picture. Over here you can write down. You can take pictures also. Okay, write down. Finish? Yeah. Second thing is, so first thing is, don't need conditions. Yeah. Second thing, what was the second thing I said just now? Can you remember? The second thing? What is the second thing? Oh, no, not yet. So first thing is, if we say someone is inherently having some quality, that means that quality is inside that person. We don't need any conditions. Secondly, regardless of conditions, it doesn't change. Yeah. So no matter what happened outside, the person is still like that. So that's the second part. The third part is, it would mean that that quality is permanent. Because regardless of conditions, it doesn't change, that means it's permanent. It will always be like that. And so when all these are fulfilled, then we say that quality or that something is inherent, inherently existing, that it is an intrinsic characteristic. Yeah. Or it exists inherently, it has intrinsic existence. Long John, you wanted to ask something or say something? Huh? Manchan has a question. Hang on. Manchan has a question. Lai Chuan, sorry. Shifu, these conditions come together to form an object, but what form these conditions? So then, where is Lai Chuan? Lai Chuan, how come your camera is below the desk? Now I can see you.
My table is very small.
Table is very small. It's okay, you can still attend the class.
Yes.
So, what form these conditions? Well, then it depends on. It depends. But in the teachings, it says that if you are to look at its prior conditions in turn has other conditions. And if you keep on tracing, can you find a first cause, first condition? Can find? You can try to find. But the Buddha, when he investigated in this way, he didn't find a first cause, a first condition. Okay? Can? Yes, Li Hui. However, how do you reflect on it?
Yeah,
Do you agree or disagree?
uh,
Like for example, water. Water, like water. Okay? Is physical water hard? Is it hard?
no,
Is
it can be hard, it can be hard.
you want to try? Come and stir a bit.
Okay.
Uh, if do you have water at home? You have water, you join me. You stir. You put your finger inside. Try. Try. You all try lah. Why you all don't try? You stir. You mix. You all have water. Try. You must experience yourself. Ehi pasigo. So, is the fluidity or we can say fluidity or the lack of hardness? Water seems to be always like that, right? Is it always like that? Simple. Water is water, correct? So there was one documentary that I watched about airline crashes. Okay, don't ask me why I go and watch this kind of documentary. I watch all kinds of documentary. But that documentary talked about how airline safety come about. Do you notice that airplanes windows are always oval or circular in shape? Have you ever seen square window? Nowadays you don't see square window. The early planes have square window. Yeah, square, rectangular, just like that. Yeah. So initially they didn't know. They just have normal windows. And at some point they find that, how come the plane always crash? Up to some point, so they look through the wreckage, and they found that when you have rectangular windows at the corner, the stress level is very high. Yeah. And how did they find out? They fly a plane and put things to measure the stress level on the window area. And they found that when they fly up to a certain point, the stress is highest at the corner. And that's where it will just, yeah. Then, the window break. Then there's turbulence. Then the whole plane go out of control. So this gradually develop, and all those data is then stored somewhere, and that process eventually developed into what we call the black box today. Yeah, all planes have a black box. Yeah. Or is it called a black box? I think it's called a black box. Now, part of this process is they found that when planes crash on the ground versus if they crash in the ocean, as long as they crash in an ocean, they almost never find any wreckage. Whatever wreckage they find are small little pieces. Whereas if they crash on land, they can find bigger pieces. Now this is counterintuitive because land is harder, so if they crash on land, by right it should right? But usually when they crash on land, they can find the pieces. Whereas when they crash in the water, they cannot find. And they were a bit puzzled. So they look at all the different crashes, all the crash data, and they found that the reason for this is when they crash on land, usually they are the domestic flights, and they don't fly so high. And if they crash at a lower altitude, and as a result, lower velocity, and so it just break up, but there are pieces. Whereas when they fly and they crash into the ocean, it is usually the transatlantic or trans-Pacific flights. And by the time they crash, it is after the first 5-10 minutes, and they have reached cruising altitude of 30,000 feet, which is about 10,000 kilometers. 10,000? 10 kilometer? 10 kilometer. So at that height, when it crashed, what happened is when the plane hit the sea cannot disperse the kinetic energy fast enough. And so the massive kinetic energy and momentum when they hit causes the water, the body of water, that is what we call the sea, the ocean, to respond back with equal force. And so when they analyze, they say the water on the surface react as though it is concrete, pure concrete. That's why when they hit the surface, it just pulverizes the whole plane. Yeah, and that's why when there's air crashes and it's like in the middle of the ocean, they almost cannot find anybody or anyone because it's totally pulverized. When I saw that documentary, at that point in time, when was that? Yeah, when I saw that, then I thought, the water is empty in nature. I mean, it's a sad thing, all those accidents. But it got me thinking, even when it crashed, in the ocean, there's probably some fish swimming, right? So the water is at the same time, at the same time, fluid, at the same time, solid. So even the fluidity of the water is empty in nature. Depending on how you are reacting with it, it presents hardness or softness. You all can go and try. No, not take a plane and crash it. No, there's an easier way to test this out. Yeah, you can either go to a swimming pool or you go to your toilet. Don't fill up the bathtub. Just fill up your basin, and then with your hand you stir the water. Is it easy to stir? Easy, right? Or else you take your palm, close it up like that, and you hit. Yeah. When you hit the water in this way, does it feel like you're hitting water? Of course, when you look at it, it's water, ma. But how come when you hit it, it's painful as though you're hitting a plank, right? And if you were to just gently move your hand and press into the water, what happened? Is it still so hard? Not hard, right? So just do this experiment and you can tell the water's fluidity is dependent on conditions, depending on how you react with it. So the hardness and even the viscosity of the water is dependent on conditions. Yeah. About stone, yeah, stone. There was another documentary I watched. I have been watching documentaries since when I was in primary school, even maybe preschool. So again, disaster. I learned a lot of things from disaster. So there was this documentary I watched. It was about landslide. Yeah. So they first show a scene, a camera, very shaky camera, out of a window, and it showed this river. There's a river, wow, very strong current, flowing. And after that, you see trees inside the river, you see cars inside the river flowing past. And then halfway through, the voice-over narration says, you may think that this is a river, but this is not a river. This is actually soil. Yeah, this is a landslide. And it is not that, it's not mud, it is actually solid soil. But when there's earthquake and it breaks up the structure of the ground, it actually starts to move. And when it picks up momentum, it behaves like a fluid. From the video, you cannot tell that it's not water, you know. It's very mind-boggling. Very mind-boggling. And again, you don't need to go and look for earthquake, okay? Very dangerous, don't go. Yeah. Go on YouTube, go and search landslide, soil river. Yeah. And very interestingly, it's a science documentary. It's not a Buddhist emptiness class, but the commentator actually describes saying that the ground is behaving like a fluid. So even the solidness of the ground is not inherent. Given the right conditions, it behaves like a fluid. So as far as the 4 elements is concerned, it's interesting to reflect on it. And it's like, why didn't I think about that? But I want to highlight something else to you. Are you attached to the hardness of things? Are you attached to the smoothness of things? Are you attached to physical things in this way? I don't think so, right? Yeah. So, oh, so excited. So when we reflect, do the reflection, there's the process to follow. But occasionally, as you go through the exercise, you may want to come back and ask yourself, the level that you are doing the analysis, is it a level that you have attachment to? In other words, is it a level that matters to you? Because our discrimination is usually at our conceptual level. And our defilements, our happy, not happy, likes and dislikes is usually at the more abstract conceptual level, not at the low molecular level. Right? When you drink coffee, let's say someone buy you coffee, yeah, and you drink the coffee. Do you your friend asks you, oh, you like Starbucks coffee? Well, I wouldn't say that I like Starbucks coffee, but I like the particular way that the molecules interact with each other. Do you all like coffee because of the way the molecules interact with each other? Do you? No, right? Or when you like someone, think of the person you like, okay? Think of the person you like. Do you like the carbon, iron, phosphor, H2O? Do you like all those molecules about that person? You don't, right? Anyone online, do you like in that way? If you like, similarly, stay back after class, okay? You need professional help. You need counseling. So the reason I want to bring this up is because sometimes when we look at the teaching on emptiness, there was a question just now, right? Lai Chuan asked, how about the conditions? Yeah, if you, for physical things, you can always trace. Then to what end? To what end? It is not only today that we look at science and physics and we say, oh, physical things comprise of molecules. Molecules comprise of different kind of atoms, and different kind of atoms each have the proton, neutron nucleus, and then electron field outside, and then you can break it down into quarks and so on and so forth, into the particle, boson particle, and so on and so forth, right? But even scientists at this point, when they reach the very sub-quantum level, and they say, oh, there's a what? Boson field, and then there's a boson particle. But even then, they don't say that this is the end, you know. They say maybe there's still a lower level. It's just that we haven't come out with a theory to describe it. So if you want to use science, you can use science in this way also. At the molecular, at the quantum level, there's no difference. At the quantum level, there's no man, woman, there's no I, no you, no me. Very direct. No self, empty nature immediately. But the question I have for people is your attachment at that level? Most of us don't even know what that is about. Even though I can talk about it, actually I can't really talk about it. I only know very, very little, not enough to talk about it also. Our discriminations, our likes, our dislikes, our happiness, our sadness, is not about things at that level. Yeah, it's at the abstract discrimination level. Yeah. So while it's useful to analyze, there's a point where you say, okay, up to this point is sufficient. Yeah. You can always, when you are free, when you are totally free of suffering already, when you are free of defilements, you are arahant already, then you can spend your time to go and examine. Is there really any inherentness in physical things? Yeah. So physicality is just part of the whole, the five aggregates. Then there's the next four. The next four, last week, we just grouped them together as mentality. Yeah, the mental constructs. Yeah. So mentality, there's feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. So let's take a look. So feelings. So here, every single year, when I touch on this, I will always have to highlight, when we talk about feelings, we're not talking about emotions, okay? We're not talking about emotions. We're talking about how, when we use our senses and come into contact with sense objects, what are the senses we have? We have what we call the six sense bases, right? So most of these are actually listed inside your text, but it's useful for you to copy down one more time. It reinforces your understanding. So we have the six sense bases. I just write down in singular. It doesn't mean you only have one eye, okay? In Chinese, it's called Liu Gen. And the six sense bases correspond with the six sense object. Forms, sound, smell, taste, touch, and the proper translation should be phenomena, but I'm going to just write down mental objects. So, 色, 声, 香, 味, 触, 法. So eye corresponding to form, ear to sound, smell, nose to smell, tongue to taste, body to touch, mental object, mind to mental objects. So far so good? Good to write it down. Good to what do you call that, remember, but actually you don't have to memorize. Why? These are things that we are familiar with. Yeah. The sequence is helpful. Yeah. The sequence itself is helpful. But as long as you can remember all 6, that's good enough for start. So repeat after me. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Okay, corresponding to forms, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental object. For those who are online, are you able to hear me? Can? Okay, good. So collectively, these two groups are known as the 12 bases. 12 bases. The Chinese term for the internal base is called Liu Ru, or Liu Ru, the 6th entrance, yeah, also known as the Liu Gen Men, or Liu Gen Men, the 6th sense base, the 6th sense doors. Yeah. So they are described as door as a metaphor that through these 6 senses, then phenomena can enter our mind. They can enter our mind. Visible form, visual form can enter our mind through the eyes, the audible sound through the ears, smell through the nose, taste through the tongue, touch through the body, and phenomena or mental object through the mind. So far, so good? Yeah. Everybody can, are you able to follow? Everybody okay? So when the eye come in contact with visible form, then something happens. We say that with the eye and the visible form together as a condition, then consciousness arises. The general form of this statement is sense-based, sense object as a condition, consciousness arises. Yeah? Or we say sense consciousness arises. Yeah? Yeah. Lai Chuan asked what is mental object. K.C. Tan also asked another question. I also have another question. The clock still says 2 o'clock, so I can go on perpetually. Can you all help me to change the battery? Okay, let me answer Casey's question first, okay? Casey's question is, in science, there is the Big Bang theory, which seems to suggest that this initial condition sets all other conditions in motion. Yeah. So, how many of you are familiar with the Big Bang theory? Huh? The rest? Okay, let me just give you a 1-minute primer, okay, on what the Big Bang theory is. According to the Big Bang theory, actually Big Bang theory is not just about the Big Bang. It is actually a whole set of equations and everything, and it is based on what they observe currently. that they observe the known universe expanding at a certain rate. Yeah, and this expansion is something that is observed over time. And so they postulate that if it is expanding now, and if it were, and based on what they calculate, it must have been expanding for a long time. Yeah, and then when they calculate in reverse, then it means that at some point, the expansion started from a very single point. And from that very single point, then where it is so dense that it doesn't occupy space. And so at that point, space and time don't exist. But then something triggered it, and then from there, bang. They say bang lah, but actually in that first sub-nanosecond, sound is not possible yet because there's no space for sound and there's no ear to listen to it. But they still call it Big Bang to describe the enormous release of energy that results in the formation of time and space. But this is according to I think this part should still be under theoretical physics. Then from there, it is supposed to have expanded until this point and it's still expanding. Yeah. So Big Bang theory actually describes a whole set of different equations and theories describing the whole process. But over time, if you go online and search, then there are other supporting theories that come in to say, but wait, so what caused the Big Bang? Casey Tan, where are you? Let me see, who is Casey Tan? Casey Tan, yes. So if you are familiar with the Big Bang theory, you probably will have heard that there are also other theories about what triggered that Big Bang. If you follow the string theory, then they say that the vibration of the string then arise and then cause the Big Bang. Then there are those that is talking about multiverse. Then they say that actually the Big Bang is the result of collision between two universe or something. A lot of different theories are. But a lot of these are at the theoretical stage. Theoretical stage. So some cases, like the string theory, they did some experimentation and it seemed to prove certain parts of the theory. But some of the theories over time, they found conflicting evidence. So they go back to revise it. Yeah. At this point, there are some scientists who look at what could possibly be before the Big Bang. There's one that is very interesting, which is that actually the universe is just always perceived as expanding, and the Big Bang is merely from another universe, a previous state of the universe, which is very dense. Compared to us, it's very small. Yeah. But okay, wait, hang on. This part is just answering this question, okay? Nothing to do with Heart Sutra. Oh, don't copy, then go back. Oh, Heart Sutra talk about Big Bang theory one. I'm just answering his question based on what I know from science, okay? So from that angle, then we can say that even though the Big Bang theory seems to postulate a start, that start is not taken as a definite start as well. Yeah, it is just a reference point with respect to our current known space and time. So Lai Chuan's question, what is mental object? Yes. So mental object is with reference to mind, right? So hang on. Morning walk, now leg cramp. When there's condition, there's leg cramp. Wait, okay, if y'all don't mind, let me just put my leg out because the circulation. Okay, so mental object. So let me just bring us back to the page itself. Mental objects is the number 6. The proper term is actually not mental objects. Proper term is actually phenomena. Okay, phenomena. In Pali Sanskrit, we write with a small d, no? Dharma. So why is it that in some of the English translation, they just put down mental objects? It has to do with that the Buddha described all the phenomena in the world exist in our mind through the senses. And when it exists in our mind, or rather, for us to know about this world, it can only exist in our mind. It must exist in our mind for us to be aware of it. For example, can you all see Sifu? Say yes. Is there a Sifu on stage? Yes? Any of you see two Sifu? How about the online student? Let's see. How many of you see two Sifu? One Sifu only, huh? Oh, Jing Zhen see two because there's two screens. Ah, very good. So, if you close your eyes, is there still Sifu? Is there Sifu on stage? Yes or no? Close your eyes, lah. Close your eyes, see whether yes or no. Close your eyes, is there any more Sifu? When you close your eyes, close lah. Siu Yin, close. Don't look at me. You also. When you close your eyes, is there any more Sifu? For that matter, when you close your eyes, do you know where you are? How do you know? Do you know where you are? For the participants online, do you know where you are? You know. If you close your eyes, how you know? How you know? How about the participants? Close your eyes, close. Close. When you close your eyes, how do you know where you are? Are you in SBYM, third floor, in the hall? Or are you at Vivo City? Close your eyes. Who knows? When the moment you close, Sifu magically snap the finger, you're teleported to Vivo City. And then Sifu snap the finger again, you're back to where you are. How do you know that you didn't move? For that matter, when you have your eyes closed, do you know who is in front of you, who is behind you? You wouldn't know, right? Would you? Can know or not? Answer lah. When you close your eyes, close, remain close, remain close. Just don't fall asleep. My voice has that very soothing, lulling feeling, lullaby effect. So when you have your eyes closed, what or how are you able to determine that you are still in Singapore Buddhist Youth Mission or in your room, in your house, or wherever you work? Maybe you may say, well, I know that I'm not in Vivo City, even if I don't open my eyes, because I can hear Sifu's voice. And I don't hear the bass and pipe music that would be there in Vivo City. Correct? So what if I now play the Vivo City pipe music? Then would you think that you are in Vivo City? Or maybe, how do you know that you are not in a train? Next stop, City Hall interchange. Passengers going north, please please get off. Jialat. Break the magic. How do you know? If I manage to emulate it perfectly, how would you know? Maybe you say, no, Sifu, I can feel that the train is not moving. But if I snap my finger, so that you don't see, you don't hear, and you don't feel your bodily sensation, then how do you know? How do you know that you are not in a train being transported somewhere to be sold? Maybe you can say, no, Sifu, that our Singapore MRT train have a certain smell. It has the MRT smell, the metallic, the metallic aircon smell. Then I snap my finger, and you cannot smell anything. No, Sifu, I can taste. Sometimes when I'm alone in the train, I would lick the the handrail. Now I go around, I cannot find any handrail. So I know I'm not in the train. I snap the finger again. You cannot taste anything. So your eyes, ears, how about nose, tongue, body? I switch off the first 5 senses. How do you know that now you're not actually in a train?
Shifu, I would say that I remember where I was before, closing the eyes and so on.
Yes. So Albert makes a very good point that he can remember. Yeah, he remembered that he was still just moments ago. Yeah, still in the room. So thank you, Albert. Now I shall switch off your mind. So before we switch off the mind, let me turn it on again. Okay, I turn it on again. So now with the mind, you can remember what happened, and you can compare, and you can maybe count, mentally count. Yeah, and you can know roughly how much time has passed. And so that, logically speaking, you couldn't have moved so fast. But if we wait, if Sifu wait for like a while, how do you know that after a while you're not already in a train? How do you know? Would you know? You wouldn't know, right? Yeah. But you can still guess and think. And now if I were to snap the finger and finally put an end to it, switch off even your mind, then can you even think about the question, where am I? Without the mind, then you cannot even think, right? You cannot recollect, you cannot project into the future. You cannot even think of the present. At that moment, can we say that the world exists or don't exist? The question doesn't apply to you. For that matter, do you even know whether you exist? What kind of state is this? Have you experienced this state before? Never, huh? Wrong. Every night you experience it. It's called sleep. When you sleep without dreams, that's what you experience. And that's why when you have a proper sleep without dreams, time just passes by in a snap. You just, especially the 5 minutes of snooze that you have, the moment you snooze, hey, whoa, how come 5 minutes so fast? The shortest 5 minutes is the 5 minutes before you have to wake up. Yeah? So in the Buddhist, actually this is not something I cook up. In the various texts, it actually talks about that when we fall asleep without dream versus having dreams. When we fall asleep with dreams, In Buddhism, we basically say that our mind is still active. Yeah. But if you sleep without dreams, then even the mind itself is inactive. And when the mind is inactive, and the first 5 senses are also inactive, then we are totally unaware. There's not even the slightest bit of consciousness that is active. So every night we experience that. Otherwise, imagine 7 hours of sleep. You'll be bored to death, you know. Huh? Can you imagine if you are aware when you are sleeping? What are you going to do? Just lie down there for 7 hours? Huh? But fortunately, because when it's totally shut off, then we are not aware. We're not aware. Now, the 6 different kind of consciousness, yeah, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. All this kind of consciousness arise due to what? This arise due to sense base and sense objects. And these 3 together is called contact. So far, so good. When the 3 come together, we say there is contact. Yeah. Sense base, sense object, and consciousness arising there. Then we say there's contact. When consciousness arises, it is basically mind being active there. Consciousness is another name for mind. Yeah. But why call it consciousness and not just call it mind? It is because there's the element of awareness. But consciousness itself is further split into 6 corresponding to the different kind of sense bases. So eye consciousness, eye giving rise to eye consciousness when there's form. Ear with sound give rise to ear consciousness. Nose giving rise to nose consciousness. Tongue giving rise to tongue consciousness. Very good. Body give rise to bodily consciousness. Mind give rise to mind consciousness. See, you are very good. Huh? Dharma easy or not? Say yes. Easy. Yeah. So, but the 6 types, they are split into 2 categories. The first 5 and the 6. The first 5 are what we call the physical sense bases. And the physical sense bases give rise to sense consciousness that has something in common. Yeah? Which is that their function is common. Common in what sense? Not that I can hear sound, no. But it is that eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, bodily consciousness, all of them have this feature of liao bie. So, liao bie. Whereas mind is able to fen bie. I don't want to rewrite everything, okay? But when I write it down this way, it is not that I itself can 了别. What is 了别? It is bare awareness. And 分别 is discrimination. Not in a negative way, okay, but it means to be able to distinguish. Yeah, distinguish, able to label, able to discern, yeah, and so on. It has a lot of function. So what exactly is this thing called consciousness? So I'm going to give you one simple example using I consciousness. And in order to do that, I need you all to follow me in this example. For those who are home participants, it could be a bit challenging, depending on how big your screen is, okay? But for home participant, I need you to find something which is quite near your screen, but not on your screen. Okay? I'm going to write on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So I want you to find something that is near to the top left-hand corner of the screen. Near to top left-hand corner of the screen. The important thing is, when you're looking at the top left-hand corner of the screen, you are still able to see the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Can you find something in this way? If you are using a handphone, you may need to go beyond your handphone, okay? Yeah. And don't keep your screen too far away, otherwise a bit hard to do this experiment. Everybody ready? Ready? Okay. Ready or not? Can you understand what you're supposed to do? I haven't tell you how you understand. Wait. Okay. Live participants, look at the top left-hand corner, okay? And when you are looking at the top left-hand corner, can you see, let me see now. Can you see that something over there? Can you see that corner? Can see? When you look at the top left-hand corner, are you able to see the bottom right-hand corner, roughly? Can? Okay. So if you can, depending on how far or close you are from the screen, pay attention to the top left-hand corner. Okay? Don't look at the right-hand corner. But I'm going to just write something there, and you tell me whether you can see something happening. Can you see something happening there? Can? Now, I'm going to write something here, okay? Keep on looking there, especially for first timer. First timer, look there, don't look at me, okay? For those home participants, look at the top left-hand corner. I'm going to write something here. So while looking at the top left-hand corner, are you able to see what I wrote? Cannot. Now look at the bottom right-hand corner. As I told you, I'm going to write something here. So I did write something here. Let me look at the home participant. Were you able to see the something? No, I shouldn't have. But when you look on the bottom right-hand corner, do you see the something? So the question is, when you were looking at the top left-hand corner, were you able to see something happening there? But at the same time, cannot know that is something there. So at the same time, you know that there's something happening there, but you don't know that something is written there. So we say that your eye consciousness is aware that there's something happening there, but the eye consciousness is not able to discern that it is something. Only when you shift your attention over, then what happens? Your mind consciousness discriminate what is that. So it is not the eye or the eye consciousness that read. It is the mind consciousness that is so-called having the function to discriminate and hence read, to cognize. Yeah. So this is the difference between the function of the first 5 consciousness versus number 6. So far so good with this example? Everybody good? Now, if you are good, then I give you another example. Even as we do this, we may be wondering, is that all there is? How can we be absolutely sure that it is not the eye consciousness or the eye that is reading? Yeah. In modern science, we call this peripheral vision. Yeah. There are different explanation. It says that the cone in the center is higher higher in numbers compared to the edge one. So our resolution, yeah, also called resolution of what we see is not constant. The center has higher resolution than the side. Very interesting. Maybe in future, cameras can be developed in that way. Now, the resolution is fixed. Our camera lens is fixed. Yeah. But sidetrack, I digress. I'm going to write something else on the screen. And I want you all to look at it directly. Yeah. If it is the eye that is actually reading, then eye consciousness reading, as long as you can see it, you should be able to read, correct? But let's try. Let me make it thicker so that it's easier to read. How do you read this? So some of you would say, why? Because this is the Japanese consonant or the vowel pronouncing the sound, This is hiragana. So let's look at the home participant. Yeah, I hope you all were able to see what I wrote. But just because you see, are you able to read it? Cannot read. Now, if you think about it, this is common sense, right? Right? Yeah. The fact that you can see doesn't mean you can read. Yeah. And why can't you read it? Because you have not been exposed to the concept called the Japanese language. If you have been exposed, you must still remember. Yeah, maybe you learned in the past, but you forgot. So you look at it, very familiar. Yeah. But if you have been exposed to it and you can remember, then you can discriminate, cognize, and give it the label. This is called and you can link it to the Japanese language, the subgroup hiragana. Yeah. So, what else? We can further say, how about, but Sifu, this is not fair. Not all of us learned Japanese. Yeah. So, how about this? What is this? Very good. By now, there's so much hesitation. Yeah, you all don't even know how to read this. How do you read this? Is my handwriting so bad? Of course, we read it as air, right? But in some part of the world, it's not read as air. It's aye, yeah? And it means water. So water is air. Air is water. So in the English language, then this is of course what we call air, yeah? The thing that is in the air, the air that is air. But in Indonesia and I think is it Malaysia? This is the Romanized writing for what we call water. So even even the words itself has no inherent meaning. Even the words itself has no inherent meaning. Any questions so far up to this point? Okay. Do I need to go through the different senses of eye, ears, nose, tongue, body? I think it's quite straightforward, isn't it? Yeah. All of you have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. Yeah. If you're not clear, use it once in a while. Use it once in a while. Experience how it's like. Okay. So the six sense base, six sense object giving rise to consciousness, three coming together is called contact. With contact as a basis, then feelings arise. What is these feelings? As I mentioned right at the start, these feelings is not about emotions. Yeah? This is the raw experience when we are in contact with external objects. Here, when we talk about external, it is either physical external or external in terms of the mind. Okay? When you think about the past, the memory is external to the mind. When you postulate about the future is external to the mind. When you think about what is happening now, the thought itself, the object of your thought itself is external to your mind. Okay, so when we say external, there's two kinds of external. One is physical externalities, one is internal externalities. Both are considered external. So here when we say feelings, it is when you have that initial contact. So from that contact, you will have some kind of experience. Many texts translate as feelings, so I oftentimes just write feelings for a start. But a word that I prefer to use is actually sensation or experience. And the Buddha described that there are different kinds of experience. It can be pleasant, it can be unpleasant, it can be neither. Neither what? Neither pleasant nor unpleasant. In Chinese, 苦受乐受不苦不乐受. So I want to wrap up today's session with another simple experiment. Okay, so imagine after class, or maybe after a dinner with a friend, and you are waiting at the bus stop or at the train station, and as you are waiting there, then you felt a tap. Yeah, you felt a tap on your shoulder. Okay, not supposed to tap each other because social distancing. Yeah, in other classes, I ask them to tap each other. Yeah, so I need you all to tap yourself. Imagine it's not your hand, you tap. Okay, try tap, tap, tap. So if you don't tap too hard, it's just a sensation of physical contact, isn't it? Is it pleasant or unpleasant? Most would say it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant, isn't it? Yeah. If you tap hard enough, then it can become unpleasant. Okay. If it's too soft, it's imperceptible. Yeah. But the normal tap is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So why do we say that this is not emotion? The difference is if you are now at the train station and after dinner, maybe about 8+, you have a nice chat with your friend and you are taking the train back, or maybe you watch a movie with your friends, 9+, and you finish at 10+11, and you take the last train back, and then as you are sitting there, when you reach the bench and you're waiting for the last train, you look around, the whole station is virtually vacant. Yeah? Somehow that day is vacant. Yeah? And then soon enough, the train arrives and you get into the train. And as you're sitting there, Yeah, you like to sit at the front or the end of the train carriage. So you sit there by yourself, busy yourself with the Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And then out of the blue, you felt a tap. And if I may, the tap is exactly how you felt just now. Having felt the tap, how do you feel? You were pretty sure that it was an empty cabin. What is your first response? Huh? What is your first response? You probably felt, yeah. The best thing is you turn around and somehow you magically see Shifu sitting next to you. Huh? Imagine somehow you turn around and you see Shifu, and then Shifu, and then you're like, oh, Shifu. Like, that split second, there was, would you say that there's fear when you first felt a tap? Not when you see Shifu, when you felt a tap, okay? Then when you turn around, to even see anyone, how would you feel? Would you say that you feel excited or what? Yeah, you probably feel anxious. Yeah, feel maybe even shocked or scared. And then only to find a familiar face, a friendly face, like Shifu. And this Shifu somehow was sitting there smiling at you. And this Shifu is floating up and down. So all the subsequent things that's happening in you, whether physical or mental or emotion, that is the response to that tap. Can you see the difference? Yeah. So that initial, when you have a tap, that is just the contact. Everything else that happened after that is from our emotional response. But the emotional response is not a serial process. Yeah. Our mind discriminates very quickly. The moment there's a tap, there's that initial experience, feeling, sensation, our mind immediately start to discriminate that. And that's why if now you get a tap, you probably won't feel as shocked as if you're in a train and supposed to be empty and you feel a tap. Even though the sensation is, if we can say that somehow we make the sensation exactly identical, your response is different. Yeah, it's different because of the context. And then further, if you turn around and suddenly you see a person, you think about it, if you turn around and you don't see a person, versus you turn around and you suddenly see a person, I don't know which is worse, you know. And I'm not sure whether it's worse to see Shifu or to see someone that looks like a ghost. At least if it's a ghost, you know it's a ghost. If you suddenly see Shifu, why and how on earth did Shifu suddenly appear next to you? And the worst thing is, Shifu is not talking, just staring at you like that. Huh? So I hope this helps you to understand the difference between emotional response versus that contact. Yeah? Although the word used is oftentimes feelings. Yeah. Now, having said that, if you look at the various suttas, the Buddha also described how there are different kinds of feelings, not just these three. There's just one feeling, there's body and mental feeling. So you can have the three kind of feelings arising with respect to the mind, with respect to the bodily senses. You can have up to 108 types of feelings. Yeah. Now, when I was in Myanmar, I had the opportunity to consult 3 different Sayadaw and ask them, emotions, where should it be categorized in the 5 aggregates. The first day I met one Sayadaw, I asked this question. He said, should be under Vedana, under feelings. So I thought, oh. Then after a few days, another Sayadaw had the talk, had an interview. So I asked this one. Not that I want to make them fight, but another Sayadaw I asked. So he said, oh, it should be under Sanya, under Sanya, under perception. So I was like, oh, perception. Then the third day, another Sayadaw. So I asked again. I said, oh, should be under Sankara, mental formation. I said, So how? So how? So should emotions be classified under feelings, or under perception, or under the mental formation? If you follow the different commentaries, the Abhidhamma, then they usually put it under mental formations. Usually. Are usually under mental formation. But I want to tell you, just don't put it in form. Okay. Form is the last place you put, okay? Yeah. To me, where you want to put it, I feel that it's still okay. Just don't put it in form. The important thing is to know that there is that difference between the initial contact, and that experience versus the subsequent emotional response. Now I want to wrap up the session by just further elaborating on this point, which is, think about the last time your good friend, your family, your parents give you a nice, very loving pat or hug. Now imagine if you take a Grab and the Grab driver gives you a similar hug. Even though the sensation, if we can recreate the whole sensation, is there a difference? I hope there's a difference, okay? If there's no difference, you need to see me after this. You need counseling. Yeah. And why is there a difference? It's because of our discrimination. Yeah. So there is a difference. Now, what if there's all this? So if you go through the 5 aggregates, form, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, as far as the middle 3 is concerned, feelings, perception, mental formations is concerned, they arise due to contact. Yeah. And contact happens because of form, because of not just form, because of sense basis and consciousness. And it is not a serial process, okay? It is not a serial process, but a very messy process. So over here, it gives rise to feelings, but not just feelings. It can give rise to perception, and it can also give rise to the mental formation. And inside mental formations, there's a particular special type called volition formation, which is intent. That means it has reached a point, you make a decision. When you have contact giving rise to feeling, pleasant, neither pleasant, pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, this itself can become an object for you to discriminate also. So this itself can also give rise to perception. And the perception itself gives rise to labels, which can become your object for you to discriminate. So it's a very messy process. But when we start to learn, we learn it as though it's a linear process, or A, B, then C. Yeah, then like that. So usually we learn contact, then feelings, then from feelings lead to craving. Craving lead to clinging. Clinging lead to becoming. Becoming lead to birth. Birth lead to aging and death. And this forms part of the sequence of the 12 links of dependent origination. When we learn the 12 links of dependent origination, which will come in full later on, it is as though it's a linear process, a serial process. But actually in between, it's a very messy process. Yeah. So it can lead to this and then spin inside, spin, spin, spin. So from feelings, oftentimes it spins many rounds, then culminate in craving. Culminate in craving. Now to a simple takeaway from this, the fact that there's so many processes happening from the point of contact until our response and ultimately our craving and all kinds of defilements arising, actually this gives us the window of opportunity to break this cycle. That when you think about not just the laksa you eat, yeah, but even to the extent of the people you meet, the circumstances you are in, that it is not simply you meet, you like, you dislike. It is that you meet, you encounter, and then you experience, you discriminate, you think, you remember, you recall, you compare, you then a lot of stories, then I think I like, I think I don't like, I'm happy, I'm not happy. So, but usually when we experience it, it's as though, yeah, I just like long, I just don't like long. But actually, a lot of things is happening. And because a lot of things is happening, then we have the chance to say, the end result that we think we like because this is likable, then do you see that the like arises due to so many conditions, so many things, and many of these things that's happening actually has little to do with that thing that we like, or that person for that matter. So even the liking cannot be found inherently in the person, just like the tastiness of the laksa. So we will stop here. We need to give you another exercise. Today, 2 exercises. One, still on physical object. Okay, still on physical object. But use the approach that we share today. Yeah, the first ask yourself, does this exist since a long time ago? Yeah, does it exist all the time? And number 2, at what point does it arise? What were the conditions required? Yeah, and then after that, if the conditions change or disappear, does the thing still exist? Use this approach to analyze the physical object. Also, do on 2 things. Or are you all ready for events? Are you all ready for events? Maybe not, because we haven't covered events yet. So just do 2 exercises on 2 different things. Yeah. Or you can take one thing, but take a different thing, okay? So one thing, you dissect using 2 different approaches to analyze whether it's dependent arising and empty in nature. One approach is the laksa approach that we went through previously, and another one is what we've learned today. Can? Okay, online students, okay? Now, of course, Sifu understand. Sometimes maybe you are shy to ask in class. But if you have questions, please post into the Telegram, okay? And don't post on Friday night, 11:59 a.m. That includes 58 p.m. Yes, Choi Kwan.
Sifu, can you elaborate more on the homework? I do not know what is the two thing, not very clear about it.
So take one thing, okay, still physical object, and repeat the exercise from last week. That means do the analysis, 名体受用, yeah, the name, the body, the experience, and lastly the function. Okay, do the analysis. The other, and on the same object, use today's approach to analyze it. Can understand? And to give you all some context, at this point, some of you have gone through the Heart Sutra maybe 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Yeah? But for those who are new, to give you some context, to do this exercise in this way is the preliminary to contemplation. So this is a form of guided contemplation. Instead of asking you, go and contemplate on emptiness, I give you some example, give you a framework, and then you write it down. Yeah. We may think, Buddha's time, nobody write down. Why must we write down? Yeah, because Buddha's time, their mind is very good. They can contemplate, store everything inside and dissect. Yeah. Shifu, I can do it. Yeah, I know you're very good, very smart, you can do it. But one step at a time, okay? So as you do this over time, you become more familiar. At a later stage, then you can just do it very, very smoothly in your mind. Yeah. And when you can do this very smoothly in your mind, then when you meditate, you can do this. Now, if you immediately do it, you know what will happen? You contemplate halfway, you start to think. You think about everything under the sun. Yeah, maybe initially you take the clock and then you contemplate. Yeah, in your mind, if you are contemplate halfway, then you think clock. Oh yeah, what time is it now? Oh, later I have to do this. Oh, not enough time. I'm so stressed. But it's okay. Sale is coming. All over the place, So when we do the exercise, it defines the scope. Yeah, predetermine the angle, and give you an approach. Yeah, so that is contemplation. Our normal thinking, the scope is not defined. It can go all over the place. The angle itself is random. Yeah, and it's usually not in line with the Dharma. Yeah, and the object itself also keep on changing. So that is thinking. Very similar to contemplation, but different. Okay, Ken? Everybody good? All right, put your palms together. 愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，不愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛，起立。